Showtime.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to tonight's Graham City Council meeting, April the 9th, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order. My name's Jennifer Talley, and we'll ask Bobby Chin, our city councilman, to give our invocation.
Would you bow your heads, please? Heavenly Father, we ask that you grant us wisdom and discernment as we go about doing the business of the city for our citizens and our community. Grant us insights into the direction that we go and all that we do for you, to your honor and glory. We thank you, dear Lord, for this opportunity that we have this freedom that we can meet, discuss, and make decisions involving our community. These things we ask in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. If you'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, which is one of the best parts of being mayor, is recognizing the Graham Fire Department, their 2023 award recipients. If you guys will please come forward. Rookie Firefighter of the Year, Jacob Churchill. And I'll recognize Chief Cole.
Madam Mayor, if it's okay, I'll just bring them all up and then we
Okay.
can do that. Is that fine?
Volunteer Firefighter of the Year, Zach Odoms. Career Part-Time Firefighter of the Year, Engineer John Perez. Officer of the Year, Captain Mike Quigley. And Chiefs Award Firefighter Brian Smith. If you guys will all come forward.
All right, y'all shift over there. I don't want to have to be looking at you while I'm talking. Madam Mayor and Council, it's my privilege and my honor to recognize our 2023 award recipients. We held our award ceremony about a month ago. We're a little later than normal, but we had some things that just caused conflicts in the time. So we did hold our award ceremony. We gave out many certificates of accomplishments to people that have attained certifications throughout the year. But our award recipients for our of the year awards, I wanted to recognize them tonight in front of City Council. So I will start with Rookie Firefighter of the Year, Firefighter EMT Jacob Churchill. Jacob has been a member of the Graham Fire Department since February 2022. Jacob is a certified firefighter and EMT and was recently hired by the Burlington Fire Department. So congratulations, Jacob. Our volunteer firefighter of the year, firefighter Zach Odom. Zach is not here. So Zach recently was hired by the Lexington Fire Department and didn't have enough time to take off, so he's at work this evening. So Zach's been a member of the Graham Fire Department since March of 2021. He's a certified firefighter. Zach was recently hired by Lexington, as I've mentioned, and since joining our department in 2021, Zach has responded to over 600 calls for service and participated in over 150 training classes, which is a big number. We run a lot of calls, but the time that our volunteers have and to be available for these calls is limited. So that is tremendous numbers, and I wanted to recognize that with Zach and his accomplishments as volunteer firefighter of the year. Our career part-time firefighter of the year, Engineer John Perez. John began his career with the Graham Fire Department as a part-time firefighter in September of 2021. He transitioned to a full-time engineer with us in January of 2023, coming to us from the High Point Fire Department. John is a certified firefighter, EMT, driver, operator, instructor, and technical rescuer. John is assigned to C shift with Captain Stokes and Engineer Holt, and his captain is here with us this evening. So congratulations, John. Officer of the Year, Captain Michael Quigley. So Michael was hired as a captain with the Graham Fire Department on January the 1st, 2023. He previously worked part-time with us in two different time frames. And Michael came to us from the Chapel Hill Fire Department, where he served as an officer. Michael is a certified firefighter, EMT, airport firefighter, driver operator, fire and life safety educator, fire officer, instructor, and technical rescuer. Michael currently oversees our training and safety division, and he is assigned as the captain on A shift. Congratulations, Michael. The Chiefs Award. So Brian Smith. So this is an award that I get to give out every year. The rest of them are peer-based awards. So their peers are the ones that nominate them, and then a committee selects the winners. The Chiefs Award, that's mine. I own that one. So what I'd like to say, I'll talk a little bit about Brian, then I'll say something about it. So Brian is one of our newest members joining the fire department in April of 2023. Brian is the recipient of the Chiefs Award due to his involvement with our Fire Explorer program post 4010. That's a lot to say. Brian serves as the post advisor and has assembled a team that is doing great things for this program. And some of his team is here tonight as well. Our program has grown from 2 members to 8 in less than a year under Brian's leadership. This is the future of our department, and I'm glad to have Brian as the leader of that team and that post. What I want to say about Brian, and I said it about a couple of other recipients of the Chiefs Award, is sometimes somebody comes into the fire department and you can tell from the moment they walk in, they're a game changer, right? It's just something about them. Brian was that person. Brian walked in, he said, "Hey, I'm here to help. I want to do something. I want to find my niche." So Brian quickly recognized the benefits of being involved with the Explorer Post and what the Explorer Post really means to our fire department. And he said, hey, I want to take it and run with it. So Brian did that. We named him the Post Advisor, and he has done just that. So Brian, congratulations on being named the Chiefs Award recipient. Madam Mayor.
Our community, and when the bell rings, you guys are always coming full speed ahead. I see that fire truck running calls all night long, when I'm working, so, appreciate everything that you do, and, I know a lot of families out here appreciate their loved ones for doing this, and so your fine work that you do here. Thank you for all you do.
Guys, just when you think nobody's watching you at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, the mayor's working. She's watching. I think Tom wanted me in one too. Madam Mayor, can I also have the floor for just one more minute,
Sure.
please? John, will you come forward? I just wanted to introduce you to one of our newest fire officers. Oh, right, John.
But
Hey, will you,
everybody understands why, but it's good.
you address that and we'll get
You
done?
know, those-
Okay. All right, let me start over. So I would like to introduce our newest fire officer here in the fire department. So John Harrington, and everybody knows John, so I know I'm talking to the choir here. So John's a 20-year veteran of the fire department, a 4th generation firefighter, which is wonderful. I'm telling you. Being able to say that is a great thing, isn't it, John? So John serves as the treasurer of the Graham Fire Department Relief Fund Board, and he will oversee our support firefighter division. So I just wanted to take the time. We just did this promotion back on last Thursday, the 4th, and I just wanted to introduce John to you guys as our newest fire lieutenant. So Lieutenant John Harrington.
But it is an honor and a privilege to be a leader amongst great men and women as members of the Graham Fire Department. Like Chief said, my great grandfather was one of the original 10 members of the Graham Fire Department. My grandfather served for a few years, my father for 38 years, serving 26 years as assistant chief, and growing up around all the retired guys that are gone before us, they're still here, and the firefighters to come to help spread the history and the love that the fire department has shown to this town since 1903. And I hope we carry on that tradition of looking after our citizens for the next 101 years that we've already done behind us. And God bless this great city and its citizens, the council members and everyone here today. Our leaders, Chief, thank you. Brother Ward, great attorney, yes, sir, Rick. And but I thank the Lord every day for being a part of this fire department, and hope I have many years to serve to come. And thank y'all very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you
you.
for being with us for such a long time. You were born to be in the fire department. You didn't even know it, right? And you're in diapers. They were raising you up. It was in your blood.
I've literally got pictures of my dad holding me in diapers in the bay, so.
I believe it. I believe it. But it's nice to have that longevity here, and we appreciate all you and your whole family has what your service has done for this community. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Uh-huh.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next, we're going to read a proclamation. For those of you that don't know, Graham is one of the prettiest towns, not just to our standard, but to standards held across the country. And we're very proud of the trees and the beautification that we've done here in Graham. And so this proclamation dated April 26, 2024, we hereby proclaim that date, April 26, 2024, as Arbor Day in the city of Graham, whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change and reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource that gives us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in the city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. Now therefore, I, Jennifer Talley, Mayor of the City of Graham, do now proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the City of Graham, and challenge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. This, the 9th day of April 2024, signed Jennifer Talley, Mayor. I know the state has put out a kind of a, I guess, a challenge, and they're going to be giving out money to certain communities to plant 1 million trees. Is that right? Across North Carolina. I know that we at a business that my husband and I own, one of our vendors is any time that you purchase something, you can they'll plant a tree in honor of that. So there's a lot of different initiatives throughout North Carolina, throughout the community, and we encourage everyone to go out, get a tree, plant it, make Graham even more beautiful than it is. We invite everyone out to the Arbor Day celebration. Where is it going to be this year? South Graham Park, where it was last year. We kind of got rained out last year, right? And I will just say that it was one of the best Arbor Day celebrations. I was kind of in my feelings a little bit about that Arbor Day celebration. We had our esteemed, we didn't know we had such talent. We had our esteemed councilwoman over here playing the guitar and singing a John Denver song. What was it?
Plant a tree.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, it was a moment. I will just say, I'm being absolutely serious. It really was the best Arbor Day celebration I've ever been to. The Appearance Commission does a great job of putting that event together. I highly encourage you to participate. Maybe we can get a repeat presentation of her musical talents, but it was great. I was just absolutely floored. It was really, really nice. They do a poem competition, all different kinds of little things, but it was really nice. They had several recipients that had won the poem competition come and get presented their awards. Very, very nice. We appreciate anyone that can attend. Now to move on to our consent agenda. To approve the March 12th regular meeting minutes is A. B is to approve closing of the 100 block of West Elm Street on Saturday, June the 1st, 2024 from 10 a.m. To 9 p.m. for Dino Day. C is to approve the closing of 100 block of West Elm Street on Saturday, September 28th from 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. For Grahamtoberfest. D is to approve a budget amendment to increase the wastewater supplies and materials from $300,000 to $600,000. E is to approve a budget amendment to recognize $15,770 insurance proceeds revenue and increase the police department maintenance and repair vehicle equipment's budget by $15,770. F is to approve a resolution providing municipal accounting services, cybersecurity, and technical assistance memorandum of the agreement with the North Carolina League of Municipalities to receive up to $30,000 in grant services through NCLM consultant Whit O'Brien's. And does Is there anyone here tonight to discuss any of these consent agenda items? Not hearing any. Is there any item on the agenda that other council members would like to discuss or have questions about? I do have a question about the closures on West Elm Street. Were those proposed by the rec department or were those proposed by an outside person?
Outside person.
Okay, and did they, do you know if they talked to any of the people on Elm Street, the restaurant or the bar to see if that was okay with them?
I'm not sure. I know that, during our discussions in the application process, we always make them aware that, you definitely want to be able to speak, because I think it's a council requirement, and I think we even put it on the application to reach out and talk with the folks along the way. And then if council approves it, we also send out in an email to all the folks on the listserv for downtown.
I don't remember seeing this, but I could have missed it. Did you send it out?
No, that usually happens after.
But they did, the people on that street got the agenda.
Mhm.
So they would know that if they had a concern about the street closure, they could come to the meeting. Okay, that's just my concern is that they know about it. So, all right,
Just curious, what is Dino Day?
so, Dino Days is, where they have, it's like a little festival that they have. I don't know, they have dinosaurs and all kinds of dinosaur themed events, things for kids and, they have a big dinosaur out there and they have a lot of the breweries participate in it. And they have vendors and things. So do I hear a motion from the council to approve the consent agenda as written?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve these as written.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to public hearings. There's an annexation, 8.7 acres off South Main Street. A public hearing has been set to consider an annexation request to extend the corporate limits for a tract of land totaling 8.70 acres located off South Main Street. This was tabled for the March 12th, 2024 City Council meeting. I'd like to recognize our Assistant City Manager, Aaron Holland, to discuss this.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And as you just said, this is a item that was tabled from last month. The attached petition is a request for council to approve the extension of the corporate limits of this subject property located off South Main Street, which contains approximately 8.70 acres. Water and sewer are located adjacent to the property, and the applicant wishes to tie on to the infrastructure. Staff does recommend approval of the request.
And my understanding is that their well is failing and they need to connect. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And how far away are they from the most like where the city, is it like 2 lots away?
It's across the street.
Okay. All right. And so is there any questions from the general public or anyone that would like to speak on this? Hearing none. Any questions from the council? Okay. Huh? Yes. No questions? Okay. Not hearing, no one's here to speak on this issue, so I'll ask the council for a motion to close the public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion we close public hearing.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Motion carries.
I'll second it.
Sorry. I'm in a hurry, I guess. Now I need a motion in order to, a motion and a second in order to approve or deny the annexation ordinance.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits to the city of Graham for a tract of land totaling 8.7 acres located off South Main Street.
Do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Old business, Sesquicentennial Park. Say that 10 times. downtown Graham. So the city council is considering what to do in regards to a budget item. And I believe Megan Garner, you had, city manager, had requested some guidance from the council on what to do in regards to either repairing it or considering it, having the council considering surplus. And we discussed this at our budget meeting and a little bit at our budget meeting kind of, and then at last month's meeting. So just open it up to you.
Thank you. The City Council did discuss this at the March 12th meeting. Last month, we are requesting guidance in advance of the budget process. At the May meeting, City Council will receive your budget books, and we just need to know if City Council desires to retain the property and make investments to repair the flooring, which really entails digging up everything beneath it, or if you would like to declare the property surplus. If City Council goes that route, we would request guidance on which method of disposal you would prefer, public auction, sealed bids, or upset bids, so that we could bring the appropriate resolution to City Council for approval.
Okay. So I guess I wasn't clear at the last council meeting about what my feelings were about this. I went back and reviewed what I thought I said, and I actually did say those things, but for some reason, from my lips to the newspaper was something totally different. So let me be very clear. This issue got brought up by the city manager and in an effort at our budget meeting, which I do believe that the newspaper did not attend. And so in regards to any kind of meetings or discussion that we've had about the Sesquicentennial Park not being public, those meetings were public for our budget. We cannot make the newspaper attend those meetings. In regards to
When was that meeting?
I'm sorry, we're not taking comments from the public at this time.
When was the meeting?
I just said we're not taking comments from the public at this time. So in regards to the budget hearing, there was a lot of different kind of discussion about it. I know that the comment about $50,000 to get the work done, but I don't see how in the world it could be done for $50,000. There's no way that you're going to be able to remove that. What would you call it? A pergola?
Yeah, shelter area.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Remove that. Dig up all the stuff that was dumped in there and put a solid, refill it back in. I mean, I would guess, being in construction, it would be somewhere 300,000 or more at least. And that's not even to build back what was originally there. I think if you just had a plain lot there and you were to build what was existing there, it would probably be close to, 200 and some thousand just for that. I think you said that you just built the shelter, rebuilt the shelter, which is just a shelter, no walls or anything like that at all, at the park. And it was 200 and
Yeah, the one at Bill Cook Park was right around 200,000.
yeah. So, I mean, there is no way we could rebuild that I just don't think the citizens of Graham probably want to spend, 300,000 plus, to fix it. And it's going to continue to sink no matter what we do because it was never properly backfilled to begin with. In regards to my comments about it saying that it was a beautification project out of Pat Bailey's own mouth, I was at that meeting, and that's what she kept talking about, was that look at what it looks like now. It's just being used as a parking lot. It's just a gravel parking lot. Whenever they backfilled it, they did it very quickly, and they probably didn't do it with the mindset that they were going to build on it anytime soon or didn't have the money to do that. But, you know, this council, has to, make decisions about the budget moving forward. And, it would either need to be some sort of complete revamp, in my opinion, of the Sesquicentennial Park to make it more usable. It's very difficult to hold events or use it as any type of venue, because there's a big, brick, column in the middle of it. It doesn't have any kind of, you know, it would be difficult to rent as it is now because there's no roofing structure on the pergola. So it's weather, contingent. There's just a lot of issues, I think, in the design, but I mean, I don't really think that the city of Graham was much involved in all that. I think the city's contribution was the land. And this is my knowledge of the project from many years ago, close to what, 20-some years ago or something. Pat Bailey is no longer with us in order to be able to talk to her, but, you know, I just don't think that, it was necessarily a structure that was going to, be there for, all time. It was something to dedicate, to celebrate the sesquicentennial birthday. And if there's going to be something that has to be done there to completely dig up that basement and put it back to where it's not going to cave in or fill in or continue to sink. I mean, as a taxpayer, I don't want to spend $200 and some thousand dollars
Madam-
fixing something and it
I guess
just
I
continuing to have
misunderstood
problems.
this question. I thought the city was asking, the staff was asking us to budget money to examine the options. Basically to come up to, if we were to rebuild and renovate the existing park, it would cost A. If we exercise an option to dispose of the land and do something with the park, that's option B. And then in discussions this morning, at WBAG, it was brought up, have we thought about a third option of moving the park and locating it either on city property or at a city park? I didn't think that tonight we were going to make a decision that says, okay, we're going to dispose of it. I thought this was to provide a budget line that says, okay, actions that could be considered for the Sesquicentennial Park. Rebuild it, dispose of the land and relocate it, you know, because I think it's premature to decide, yeah, let's go ahead and dispose of it versus let's find out what it would cost. We're just guessing that it's going to cost anywhere from 200 or, you know, the comment or the price or the cost was said $50,000. Well, we have since learned that's a price that does not include the fact that our Public Works Department would do all the work of excavating the basement.
Yeah, I think the 50,000 is just for the masonry work alone.
I know. I
So-
mean,
So that's very misleading.
But again, you're
It's-
just doing $50,000 and then
Well, that's
and
why I
it's
thought,
going to continue to be,
that's why I thought
a
what we were
problem.
gonna, we were gonna give guidance to the staff to develop alternatives and the associated price tag.
yeah. And I think there was an interview done by the paper with Mr. Powell, who said he was certainly in those meetings with Pat Bailey and part of the committee that I attended. And he absolutely said he didn't think that the burden should be on the city of Graham or the taxpayers. You know, he feels like those maintenance costs are excessive, and he said it wasn't, you know, obviously people don't think in the future of, you know,
Yeah.
how this is going to affect things. I mean, Bobby, you know, to your point that you've made in the past about people saying, well, you have these pocket parks in these neighborhoods, but when all the neighbors start complaining that it's being unsightly, that's now going to be a cost to the citizens of Graham, the rest of the city, for a neighborhood park, because that community doesn't have maintenance fees or doesn't have an HOA or whatever. I mean, sometimes when people, and this committee gifted it to the city, and we participated in it, but I don't think that that was something that was thought through in regards to the long-term, who's going to pay for the long-term maintenance of the park. So, I think we could have gotten written up in a negative way also if we were saying, oh, we've went out and gotten estimates and the estimates are $300,000 and we're going to put that in the budget as well. And I don't mind getting estimates. I think that's fine, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be more than $50,000.
Honestly, Mayor Talley, if I may, it's difficult to get an estimate until we know what's underneath. So the 50,000 is for the mason to go out and relay what's there. It doesn't include the dollars that we pay anyways, but they would be allocated for a separate, different purpose for our Public Works Department to do the work. Statute allows us to use in-house labor up to a certain dollar amount, so we would be under that. But until everything from that lot has been removed and they've been able to dig down to see what's there, it's really hard to get a firm estimate on what it's actually going to cost. So we just need direction on if city council would like to maintain that property. And if that's the case, then we know we have to budget for something to happen there before it continues to sink and cause some sort of an issue, or dispose of the property from whatever method city council would desire.
And an additional option is to relocate the park.
Yeah, as stated in the staff report, and I apologize, I didn't make it super clear about the shelter area, that could go, and the bricks could be repurposed. That part was in there. We're not going to just go up there and chuck them all in a dumpster.
Yeah, well, I had said that consideration of maybe putting the bricks from within the park out on the sidewalk so that they would still be located in the same location, and maybe having some sort of caveats associated with whatever would be built there to be some sort of naming of like the sesquicentennial, this plot of land was dedicated to mark the sesquicentennial and what that meant, and some sort of verbiage as to why the bricks were given and all that sort of thing. So I think, it's very important. And that's really what the discussion was last month, was that when this was brought up in budget, my main concern was, well, hey, we want to make sure that we're honoring the people that gave the money for the bricks, and we don't want to, not have them still be able to honor those things. I mean, people were gave those bricks in honor of loved ones and in honor of their children and just all kinds of different reasons. And so I definitely, somehow that didn't get
And
put out that way.
that location is not sacred, that the park has to be there.
Correct.
Because for a lot longer, there was a building there.
Correct.
And
Correct.
the important thing is, we don't want to forget the ceremony and the event of our 150th anniversary.
Correct. I agree with all of that.
And potentially a more appropriate setting would be at one of our parks, where you incorporate the bricks, the structure and such, and you make a prettier setting for it.
And has there been any kind of assessment done on that property? Do we know what it's even worth?
No, we
I
have.
asked you that last month, but
Yeah, we did not order an appraisal of the property. We were trying to be stewards of taxpayer dollars, and we didn't want to pay for that if city council was going to opt to retain the property.
And you're not only losing the, the sales tax from any business that would be located there, but you're also losing the property tax because it's a city-owned property. Both the county's losing the tax and the city's losing the tax. And, my argument was that, not that we don't need to have something to continue to honor. I mean, I wasn't dismissing the purpose and the meaning of that. But, I guess my thought is that when the next 150th or 300th, I don't even know what you would call that centennial, but when that rolls around, is like you said, is it going to be designated as holy ground and still be there? I mean, we need to, it's gotten to the point where the repairs, in my opinion, will be so excessive that it doesn't make taxpayer sense to continue to maintain the property. That's just my opinion. And I've talked to several residents and, from what the people that I have talked to, they didn't necessarily want, an excessive amount of taxation to be going towards that, but they do want to see those bricks preserved in some way, in some meaningful way. And I agree with that. But to dictate that if the existing building that was there could be rebuilt in the same structure and visually as it was, I think that would be something that would generate a lot of excitement and interest from the community. And I think people would really like that. That's just my thought. And if all the bricks were located around the building and there was something to name it, the Sesquicentennial Building or something to that extent, I think that would be a positive thing. Originally, I believe the second and the third floor were used for residential. And I know that there's like a big push for people to do, and they've been extremely successful, is these boutique hotels that they have downtown. I think that would be very successful. We are as close to the interstate as any hotel, and I think it would do really well. The shop owners, in regards to the traffic and the parking, typically people check out of hotels at 10 a.m. And they check in later in the evening when the merchants are gone, when parking is more readily available. And then they check out typically by 10 a.m. the next morning, and most businesses downtown don't open until 10 a.m. We have a very vibrant two-shift town, and that works out really well for both the residents that live downtown and the business merchants. So I would like to see a building built there. I know there was some sort of absolute, complete false narrative that was put in the paper in regards to my personal, let me see, I just want to make sure that I'm quoting this correctly. We certainly hope that she's not conjuring up the idea of reestablishing the restaurant that we own, and putting that we find it highly suspicious that this item appeared out of nowhere, which is not correct. It was discussed in the budget meeting, and that basically that I'm looking to take that space and, I guess, myself build a 3-story building, which you have me on record that will not happen. I will not be purchasing the building. I have no interest in the building, but I do have an interest in, and have always had a big interest in, the preservation and historical renovation of the downtown. I have no interest in the property, and I find it highly offensive that anyone would write that. And in regards to, I believe the comment was made, it makes us wonder yet again when or whether politicians can be trusted, whether governments can be relied on. and whether or not, in this case, some of Graham's council members are simply lemmings following the mayor's latest ill-conceived idea. Well, I can say I have no interest in the property. I believe you said you would like a promise to that extent, so I make that promise. Had never had any interest in the property. Obviously, I couldn't be voting on something that I would be later purchasing, which makes absolutely no sense. I doubt that our attorneys would allow me to do that. So I took a lot of offense to what was written in the paper. You know, and I just want to make it very clear that in regards to trust, it's the media that people don't trust these days. And because we don't want to misspend the taxpayers' dollars and we're trying to do something good and valuable and bring in tax revenue for the city while also honoring the celebration that was the Sesquicentennial Park, I feel like we're doing a great job. And I just try to ignore these kind of, I guess, desperate attempts to sell newspapers, but it was completely out of nowhere that those kind of comments should not be allowed to try to dissuade the public to a certain opinion. From the last meeting, Bob, I believe it was questioned whether you could sell the property. Did you find, you said you were going to look to make sure that there was no encumbrances whatsoever if the city decided to declare the property surplus, is that right?
Full title search on it, and I'll let him report to the council with respect to that.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor. Last council was brought up about whether there were restrictions on the property, or whether there was an agreement with the county that it be used for the park. And I searched it from 1983 when Court Square Associates bought it. City got it in 1998. I found it with the Register of Deeds search. I found no agreements, no restrictions on record at all.
Okay. So, yeah.
If we decide to dispose of the property, you did state that if we wanted to put conditions on the developer to, to incorporate, or that the architecture would reflect that of this downtown, if possible, to incorporate some of the, the fact that the park was there, mural or incorporation. So we could put it, put conditions so that we would recognize the history of the location.
Yeah, I think so. I think Bob maybe even addressed it, the conditions or restrictions, however you want to term it, we just need to be reasonable.
Right, exactly.
And I think.
Yeah, we're not going to dictate,
Yeah,
how they're going to do it or
Right.
what, but, says, hey, we would like these things to be addressed,
yeah, so.
and then leave it to the developer to, to incorporate it.
Well, it is part of historic downtown anyway,
And
so they're gonna have to come back and ask to a certain point. And, just because I happen to agree with what the mayor is saying on this, because I want to be a good steward of the taxpayers, doesn't really make me a lemming. I have my own mind, my own thoughts, and I think if you look at my voting record, it shows that.
For
So,
sure. And to
Don't know
say-
about the
and-
rest of you
and I
guys, but
think-
I'm not a lemming.
And to say
So.
that, that just because you're new and
Mm.
you're new to the community, that you don't have a appreciation for the historic nature of the downtown. It's because you came from other locations and saw
Yep.
complete destruction of the
Exactly.
historical assets that you had maybe in your community that
Mhm.
you might have an appreciation
Makes me
for.
want to protect it just as much.
Correct. And we have
So-
one of the most intact historic downtowns. And when we're right now going through the comprehensive plan and having meetings about that. And what you hear overwhelmingly over and over and over from the community is that they love the historic nature and the charming um, uh, kind of, old feel that you have to our downtown. And, you know, had these different buildings been torn down, I mean, you know, I was calling last week about the Bank of America building because, what Preservation North Carolina promotes is these preservation deeds, so that when you transfer title to a new owner, that you have a preservation deed that basically gives that, yes, you have full title, but it doesn't allow the new property owner to put it on the ground and make a parking lot or build a new building there, that you have to maintain the building that's there. And, you know, I just don't ever want to see us lose. Because, you know, just a few years ago, we would have lost the entire southeast corner of Court Square. They had actually already pulled a demo permit. And had the Historic Commission not stepped in with a moratorium, we would have lost the entire corner of Court Square. And that's tragic. We have an antebellum building that stands there that everybody wants to see reused at some point. We have, and all of that whole renovation of those buildings were done shortly thereafter because it was put with a contractor that did do all that work. And then the sister house, which is the Bank of America building, that was going to be demolished at one point. So the fact that we were able to talk Bank of America into doing that renovation and changing their plans and saving that building. Now that there's obviously different people there at Bank of America, I would just hate to see all that work and effort that was used for preservation to be for nothing. So I personally, you know, if Bobby, if you want us to explore getting some estimates, I have no problem doing that. But
I think it's only fair, and also for our community to understand that if we rebuild the park at that present location, it's going to be paid for by the taxpayers, not by insurance, by the taxpayers. And it's not going to be cheap. Now, let me be very clear. We don't want to, throw the park away. It's one of those things, let's put the park somewhere it can be appreciated. One person made the suggestion, why not do something, what is now our free speech spot in front of the city hall? You know, basically make it a plaza using the bricks and things like that. But on the other hand, why not locate it in one of our city parks where it could be appreciated by all the folks who go to the park?
you know, and I had mentioned like maybe we could, you know, if we were going to reuse it, to do something that makes it an actual usable thing. I just don't feel like there's a lot of use that's taken out of it. You know, the farmer's market, which was, you know, Ricky's consideration, but I think when I brought that up, the farmer's market that they have down there at First Methodist has so many vendors now that they couldn't fit it in the park. But, you know, to be able to use it as some sort of wedding venue or shelter venue, or the rec department to be able to get some use out of it. But the way it's designed now, I just don't see that people really get anything, you know, get a whole lot out of it. I just want to see our taxpayer dollars being put to good use if we're going to reinvest in that and have something that would at least have some sort of, I don't know, shelter that's doesn't make it so weather related.
Well, the thing is, the park as it is now, you would not know, other than by its name, that it was part of the 150th anniversary celebration. While if we relocate it, you have the opportunity to expand that park to reflect all that happened, you know, over the course of 150 years.
Mhm.
You know, not to just move the current structure and just relocate it. Take advantage of the fact it's got to be disassembled anyway. Expand on it where it's more usable.
Yeah, and I would say that I hear from people all the time saying they didn't know what that park was. That for whatever reason, there was no,
There's nothing there
there's
to,
there's no, marker or anything that kind of explains the purpose of the park and why it was put there and that sort of thing. So again, I think, having the Historic Commission doing the markers that we're doing, going around to the buildings and stuff, I think that's so important because people, I see them, they're reading, and learning about the history of the buildings and the downtown and stuff. So I think we have a lot to consider when it comes to that. I know I got, yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah, we need to figure something out. What do you want to do? Get estimates?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, I would like to get a better estimate than what we have that will at least I was talking to Burke, before the meeting, and that would at least include, if they have to go down, let's say 5 feet, like you were saying, excuse me, how much that would cost if they have to go down 5 feet and then, redo the pillars and all that kind of stuff, and then fill it back in, including the excavation, the dig out, all that stuff, not just the masonry work. Like, if we could get a
I-
ballpark figure.
I believe it
know
was a full basement.
It
though.
was, right. There was a speakeasy down there. But if they have to go beyond, and they won't know till they tear into it, that's my understanding. They're not, it's just like anything else. You don't know till you start
We
tearing
need a
walls
worst
down and
case
stuff.
Scenario. We need somebody to give us.
I would
an
like to
estimate.
have, yeah, a best case scenario and a worst case scenario estimate, something that we can kind of look at and say, okay, this is how much we might be in for,
Right.
so that we can make a better decision, um,
and that should include the
excuse me.
relocating the park itself to another location.
That would be a separate estimate to know
Right,
what it's gonna cost
exactly.
to move it.
And when you say relocate, what do you mean? Do you mean the entire structure? Or do you just mean
The name of the park and the bricks and such, and develop a sesquicentennial park that reflects
Within the park.
150 years.
within another park?
Within
that
one
what
of
you're
the city
saying?
parks.
Okay.
Or in our public speaking, our free speech.
Yeah, and we definitely would want to be respectful of the folks that bought the bricks,
Absolutely.
and contributed
not gonna
money.
Throw the
And,
bricks away or
no.
anything else.
No, I don't want to do
Question
that.
of how we incorporate it where it
I don't
means
think that was
something.
ever a consideration.
I don't think
I
it
know,
was either,
I
but
think
it
some people
never,
have gotten the impression
it never
that we were
translated
just gonna
apparently from the
do
last
away with the
meeting.
park.
So,
Yeah. But we would reuse all the bricks and things like that.
All
But I
right.
think that, it could be better designed if you have, you put it out in the park.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, something, I don't know if there were, I know the pergola is designed to be open, but if there was some way that maybe you could put something in there from the underside or whatever that would allow people to be able to rent it for birthday parties or like another shelter that they have at the city. I mean, I think those are pretty popular, right, Brian? I mean, people go and have birthday parties and events and family reunions and all kinds of stuff there. But we just want it to be something that's
Usable.
usable, yeah.
Yeah.
And
no.
So, all right, well, I'm fine with what you have suggested, Bobby. Thank you for your input. If you want to make a motion to have the city manager and staff look into getting a worst and best case scenario on repairs for us to make a final decision on whether to declare the property surplus and put some restrictions on what we would like to see, some reasonable, I guess, restrictions on what we would like to see a new purchaser come in there and build something similar to what was there originally. I think that would be appropriate. You want to make that motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that the city staff be tasked to assess the costs to bring the current park up to where it's safe, incorporating all the current features in its present location. Alternatively, we would like the city staff to look at the cost associated with moving the park to another location, with the understanding that if it's moved to another location, consideration would be given to expand the park to reflect the 150th anniversary that it's named after, where it's a piece of history that our citizens can enjoy and learn about Graham.
I hear a second.
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Me.
Okay. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, ARPA project allocation, Richard Marvin from the North Carolina League of Municipalities.
Madam Mayor, there's no opportunity for questions on the previous item, is that correct?
We'll give you an opportunity once we get down to the end of the agenda.
Mayor Talley, before Mr. Marvin speaks, I do just want to introduce him. He is a field representative with the League of Municipalities. He's here to talk tonight about I refer to it as ARPA. Sometimes people say ARP. It's all, don't think we're talking about different pots of money. But what we're asking you to consider tonight is basically a three-phase approach. One, to consider adopting the revenue replacement option for ARPA funds. If you do that, it would come with two separate project ordinances. One would be technically an ARPA project ordinance that shows we have spent that money on personnel-related expenses. Anything you've encumbered to date that we have previously designated as ARPA would now be classified as an ARPA-enabled project. There's still around $77,000 that City Council would have to encumber sometime between now and the end of this calendar year. And then the third phase of that would be to adopt the 5 policies we have listed here. So having said that and introduced Mr. Marvin, I'll kick it over to him.
Thank you,
Hi.
Madam Mayor, Council. Thank you for inviting me. The league basically has had grant money as well through the ARP program, and basically they decided to use those funds to help cities all over the state to technically deal with the grant. And we've been going out to the communities in North Carolina to do that, give them some recommendations about what possibly be the easiest and simplest and most secure way to spend those funds, and also to avoid any complications with regards to compliance to the grant. And as you probably know, the grant started in 2021, got one tranche of funds, and then you got another tranche in 2022. Along the way, the compliance and the aspects of the grant changed somewhat as the federal government basically interpreted what the ARP funds were going to be and could be used for. And that caused some issues, because in the beginning, you had to show a loss of revenue from COVID before you were able to basically reimburse yourself for expenses. The key was really in the government's perspective of trying to do something with the ARP money is to get that money into the economy really fast. And that's the way they came up with the idea to do that. And originally they said, okay, the cities have to show that we actually lost funds, revenues because of COVID before you could actually use this simplistic method of reimbursing yourself for these expenditures you've already made. They changed that in 2022 to allow you to not have to be required to determine what the loss is. And so they said, you know, you can spend it on anything that the state allows you to spend money on as long as it's legitimate expenditure of city funds. So with that, do you have the first one? The first one just is my attempt to show where you are. And by the way, everything that you've done already is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a reinterpretation of the grant compliance requirements that makes it easier to do what I'm going to suggest tonight. So first, you obviously received your grant. You actually did take the standard deduction or standard allowance, and that's what we call revenue replacement, which allows you to basically take ARPA monies and basically pay yourself back for funds that you've already spent. And you created a grant project ordinance that was basically, I think, 10 projects, roughly 10, and there's a little bit left over that to actually reimburse yourself for those expenditures that you made on those with the ARP money. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We also the city is establishing an internal control policy as a part of the grant. That's basically financial controls that basically they want to make sure that there's some comfort level in how the monies are spent so that there would be no possibility for fraud or anything like that violate any of the federal requirements. And also to provide the compliance policies. There are 5 of those that need to be passed as part of this compliance as well. So you've, as I understand, have done all those. You may want to adjust them, but I think you're actually determined that you're up to speed with every one of those compliance requirements that were required by the original grant. So with that, that's where you are now. And what we're suggesting, and what we've talked to your staff about, is to look at the possibility of using those replacement dollars a little bit differently to make it easier for you to meet the compliance requirements of the grant and still basically have the ability to use all of the money that you've already spent money on as enabled funds because you were using the ARP grant for those monies that you paid yourself back for. It sounds a little weird, but the government doesn't really care about what you paid yourself back for as long as they're legitimate expenditures. And what we're doing really is just reclassifying those expenses. But under the rules, you have the ability to take the ARP money and pay yourself back for those expenditures. You must obligate those funds by the end of this calendar year. So this is really a critical period of time in this whole grant. You only have this 2-year, 3-year period to do that, and we're getting toward the end of it. So the end of December of 2024, that will be the end of the obligation period. So you will have had to have obligated all of the monies. The way to do that is through your grant project ordinance, which hopefully you'll be passing. And actually you have already passed, but we're suggesting you change it. And you have the ability, as long as you reclassify those expenditures before the end of the year, you'll be in good shape and in compliance with the grant. And you must spend the money by 2026, the end of 2026. And that looks like a really hard date that the federal government is not going to change. But in your case, all you're doing is using your ARP money to pay yourself back. So at the moment you pass your grant project ordinance, you've obligated all of the ARP funds and you've expended them. So technically, you've met the basic requirements of the grant, except for the compliance, the compliance policies that we're suggesting you pass. There are 5 of those. So with that, one of the things that we've suggested most communities of your size look to is looking at using those ARP dollars to replace salaries and benefits for employees. Very simple, because then you already have all the records. They're your payroll records. You don't have to worry about any of the compliance additional compliance requirements of the grant because of that. It makes it very simple, and it also makes it very easy when and if you're audited, that you'll be able to, you're spending on your payroll records. You have all that information, and it's very easy to comply with any kind of audit requirements. So what we're suggesting on reclassification, the next page, yeah. There you go. On reclassification, all you're doing basically, as I said earlier, is you already had 10 projects that you're gonna use to pay yourself back with the grant funds, the ARP monies. What we're suggesting is you substitute those in the ARP grant and use salaries and benefits for any types of employees that you like, whether police and fire, or in your case, I think you're using it for some utilities and general fund employees. And all you're doing basically is reclassifying the expenditure, changing your grant project ordinance to reflect that, and then turning around right now, which we're in April, and filing that in the annual report to ARP, which you'll need to do this month. And with that, then basically you've simplified the whole process. You still have, nothing's changed. You didn't change your audit. It's not going to affect anything you've already done. All it does basically is reclassify those projects which the grant allows you to do because it's before the end of this calendar year. And then you're also amending or changing your annual reports to reflect those changes, so that will be the same thing and consistent with the grant project ordinance that you're passing. The next page just gives you an idea of what it looks like. It's really simple. Basically, instead of having all those projects there that we have to address in the annual report, you just have the what we call 6.1s, which are all revenue replacement of salaries and benefits for the particular areas that you determine maximize your grant. You have basically almost $5 million that you're having to do, but you can actually go back, as we discussed, all the way back to March 3rd of 2021. And any payroll expenses that you had from March 3rd of 2021 to the current day, or you can even wait past that. I would suggest, though, you go on and max out that grant so that you've already expended and obligated and expended all the funds. You never know what the federal government's going to do. They might change their mind. We don't know, but right
That's
now.
happened a lot.
Yes, it does.
Happened even with this.
Yes, it has. And that's why we want to see it cleaned up right now and be in a position where you've got a very simple compliance requirement for the monies that you spent. And you still have, the grant money that you actually have can now be placed to be spent with no compliance requirements on those projects that you have already done and identified. So with that, let me see if there's anything else. I think I've covered everything that, and I'll then see if there's any questions. The only other thing that I would suggest too is I think you said that there were going to be some expenditures in the utility fund as well as the general fund. And I would suggest you basically split out the salaries so that it matches those two, so that you don't have to journal entry any additional changes between funds.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and if I may add, for the revised project ordinance that's before you for the ARPA projects, we use just general fund salaries to equal our 4.98 million, just so we wouldn't have to journal anything between them. And we did reach out to both of our auditors, Becky and Patricia, who reviewed both the staff report and both project ordinances in advance of the meeting tonight to ensure that we would still be in compliance and not run into any issues for the audit for the current year.
So to simplify everything, the grant, when it was written, you pick things from a lot of different pots, so to speak, from different departments for improvements. It's much simpler because they revised the grant requirements to just take that all out of salaries, which wasn't the case originally. And so just to clean up the accounting part of it, you're asking the council to just agree to reclassify and amend the GPO for just the salaries.
Correct. And we would have two grant project ordinances, one that was ARPA projects that is salaries, and then we would have a second that's ARPA enabled projects, which is exactly what you've seen before with the designation of projects. None of that changed. That language has just changed from
Just the
ARPA to
money
ARPA
that-
enabled.
The money that we have in the budget to pay for salaries, that money would be freed up for those projects that we had assigned to the ARPA funds to
That's
begin with.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
nothing's really changed, just simplifying the accounting process.
Yeah, you're just reclassifying the way
Correct.
you use the funds. That's correct.
Okay, do I have a motion from the council? Is there any discussion? Anybody have any questions?
So, ma'am.
I would just like to add that we are requesting that those policies be adopted in addition to the two project ordinances, and I'll be glad to read those if you would like me to.
Is it not in this motion?
It's in the staff report.
Okay. Do I hear a motion from the council?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the eligible use conflict of interest, non-discrimination records, retention, and allowable cost policies, and the new ARPA project ordinance electing to take the standard allowance as authorized by 31 CFR Part 35.6, Section D1, and expend all the ARPA funds for the provision of government services. I also move we approve the revised project ordinance amending previously designated ARPA funds projects to ARPA-enabled projects.
Is that everything you need?
That's perfect.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I would like to ask you a question about a separate issue that's not on the agenda, but just since I have you. I had brought this up to Aaron. There was a class action lawsuit for credit cards, the $5.5 billion settlement. And I asked, I'm in the private sector. I'm a working mayor. And for my businesses, for any credit cards that we received revenue on, it's a percentage of that, and it's quite substantial. It's a quite substantial claim that we would get back for the credit cards that we offer. But the city also offers credit cards. Would they not be eligible to get a reimbursement through that class action lawsuit?
I'm not familiar with the class action suits you're talking about. I've heard of class action suits like that, but not this one particularly, so.
It's the $5.5 billion. If you took credit cards, basically you have a claim.
Yeah.
And we took credit cards as a municipality, so I'm trying to figure out if we,
Yes, ma'am, I did. I submitted our credit card claim on March 3rd. It's done. So,
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
I am so excited that we qualify for that. You should be telling other municipalities about that. You can go home with that little
I'll have to
bone.
check that out.
I mean, just for one business, I'm telling you, it's, for a small business, I mean, $40,000-$50,000 back, because it goes back years. So it's a significant amount of money. I can't imagine what the city's gonna get.
Is
for
that the amount for the whole state? Or what?
No, that was for one business.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying, and I'm sure the city takes a lot more credit card payments than I do personally. So I'm just saying I guarantee you, you're gonna get a good check for the taxpayers. But
So you sign up for the class action then.
No, you just have to file your claim by May 31st.
Okay, that's
But
filing it.
what I'm saying, I mean, the North Carolina League of Municipalities is great at trying to inform people about this, but maybe they don't know about the class action lawsuit. But I definitely think you should send out a letter or something to the other municipalities. If we, when I read it for our business, I thought, well, why couldn't the city also get that? Because we take utility payments, we
Yeah,
take
that's right.
payments for fees, we take payments for taxes. I mean, that's a huge windfall for the city.
Megan, if you could send me anything you have so I could check out.
Yeah, I just took my claim form and sent it into the one that I had and sent it into them. And so I'm very glad that they did that, but I just didn't, I think that's a good thing for you to go back and
We will definitely do.
maybe you'll get a promotion.
Or bonus.
Or at least a thank you card from some other municipalities, right?
The one other comment I had though, that the enabled funds, ARP enabled, we love that term. Again, because really it's important for us to, in the state of North Carolina, we got about $9 billion for ARP all over the whole state. And it's important, that's the largest revenue sharing program I've ever seen in the United States. The Clean Water Act was pretty large, but there were matches. And these are direct grants to the state and to local governments. And we want to make sure we tell a story. And a lot of people say, well, yeah, but if you're just using the money to pay salaries, that's not really very exciting. And it's not going to show people what it meant to us. And that's why we sort of coined this term ARP enabled. The money that you got from ARP allowed you basically to pay the salaries back, but that freed up $5 million to do the projects that you needed to have done.
Yes.
That's why it was important. And that's the story we want to tell all over the place, because it's important that the governor knows this. It's important that the legislature knows this, because they were the ones that were allocating those funds out to you and other governmental agencies.
The majority of what we used the money for was infrastructure updates, which were significantly needed. I mean, like,
I saw those.
and maybe those aren't very exciting or, but several years ago, Burlington's water quality went bad for 3 days and it was absolute mayhem. So,
We have systems that actually might not survive. And some of them are surviving for more years now because of ARP. So it's huge. And
it
it's
is a huge, it was so needed. And like our wastewater treatment plant, 89 million, 85 million. I mean, what small community can afford that? Nobody can. And I think the most you can get for grants, even when you get a grant, is like maybe 1 point something million. I mean, that's a drop, that's a
There's
drop
lot
on the
larger
bucket.
ones at DEQ, but they're competitive grants. You have to you have to compete for those grants. And if your system's in pretty good shape, it's hard to get them to give you the dollars. They end up giving the dollars.
Well,
to
we
the
got a grant from
DEQ.
DEQ, but it was like, how much was it? Yeah, it was like $1 million something.
Well, they rate it all and they don't have enough for everybody. So they're going to basically do the ones that are under federal mandates or concerns about forever chemicals and things like that. They're going to go.
People
with
take
those.
water for granted for sure.
They
And,
really do.
yeah, I had a daughter that, an exchange student that lived in Venezuela and, they, with everything that was going on in Venezuela, she was saying, we would go days without water, clean water. She said, to the day I die, I will never take a glass of water and throw it in a sink ever again. She said, that will cure you. Having good water quality is essential for, our community to be, to thrive really. So appreciate what the North Carolina League does and, appreciate you coming tonight.
Thanks. And we do have a program that we've actually hired somebody to help you write that story. So if you're interested in that, and we could talk about helping your staff write a story that could be put out into a news release and also in a document that we're trying to put together for all the cities that shows the importance of the grants for the cities in North Carolina. So,
Okay, thank you so much.
sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item Appearance Commission Board Members Reduction. City Council will consider an ordinance amendment to Chapter 2 Administration, Article 2, Division 3, Board and Commissions of the Code of Ordinances to reduce the total members of the Appearance Commission Tree Board from 7 members to 5 members. Would like to recognize Assistant City Manager Aaron Holland.
All right, thank you, Mayor, and this may have been the easiest amendment I've ever done in my life. As you just said, essentially just went to the Code of Ordinances and based on council's direction, changed the total number of board members from 7 to 5 in light of the issues that they were having a quorum and unable to move certain meetings forward. So what you have before you is the amendment, basically just changing that one area of that ordinance from 7 members down to 5.
Okay, do I hear a second? Oh, do I hear a motion? Sorry.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the ordinance amendment to Chapter 2 Administration, Article 2, Division 3, Boards and Commissions to the Code of Ordinance to reduce the total members of the Appearance Commission / Tree Board from 7 members to 5 members.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Me.
Okay. Appoint voting delegate for North Carolina League of Municipalities. City Council will designate a delegate to vote in the electronic voting process for the North Carolina League of Municipalities Board elections. Who is attending that meeting?
Mayor Pro Tem Ricky Hall and Councilmember Chin. I
Okay.
will point out that the voting process is electronic.
Okay. Either one of you have any preferences as to who would like to do it?
I did it last year. We'll let Bobby do it this year.
Okay, Bobby, do you accept that?
I accept.
I move to appoint Bobby Chin as the voting delegate. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, Accessible Parks Grant Application and Matching Funds. City Council will consider directing staff of the Graham Rec and Parks Department to apply for the 2024 Accessible Parks Grant for ADA entryway doors and ADA family restroom projects at the Graham Rec Center and to approve matching funds in the amount of $26,250 if the grant is awarded. I'd like to recognize our Director of Recreation and Parks, Brian Fawcett.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Pretty straightforward request. This is a state allocated grant, very competitive grant, but I think we have a good shot. Been going through the application process over the last couple of months, having public input meetings and that sort of thing, presentations. And Mr. Holland has a presentation that if you guys want some more details on the project, he can pull up. But it's pretty straightforward. This is going to be push button ADA system for the entryway at the Graham Recreation Center. So those doors are fully operational and independent. Anyone with any sort of mobility issues can access the recreation center. A little bit of caveat, getting kind of into the weeds. If you'd like to, we can discuss it, but there's a couple of different security doors and entryway doors. Sorry, I started with the second project first, Aaron, so go one more slide. There we go. There are the entryway doors, are their current state, and then the next slide will show you what they will generally look like with the push button doors. I'm not sure if it'll be a freestanding or a wall mounted push plate, but the second set of doors that you see kind of in that middle picture, we have a security set of doors that remain locked at all times, except for when we've got high volume coming in and out of the building. They're kind of a free flowing anyway. But when you generally come up, you have to be kind of buzzed through, if you will. The door has to be unlocked by a staff member once you check in. There's some finer details to work out on how that system will work. Flip back to the second project, please, sir. This will take the space currently, go to that blue slide for me, Aaron, please. That will take the current space that is used right now for a trophy case. Way back when, that used to be where vending machines was located. That is in the kind of cubby right in between the men's and women's restroom. That will take that space into the next slide. We'll show you that far right picture there. my little crude drawing, the little red dots at the bottom, that will carve out a space in the existing men's and women's restrooms. So we'll be losing one urinal in the men's room and one stall in the ladies' room to create an ADA and family restroom at the rec center. Again, I think it's desperately needed facility for the center. You can see kind of the space plan for an ADA accessible restroom and on the left. The picture on the bottom is an adult changing table that was suggested by one of our attendees to a public meeting a couple of weeks ago. In our park system, we're currently doing infant changing tables throughout the parks. This is something that this particular citizen highly recommended that we do. She has a daughter who currently is, I'm going to guess, 2 to 3 range, but she uses a mobility device to get around and may have to be changed in an adult size changing table because she's getting larger in size. She can't take care of herself, and the infant changing tables don't cut it. So that's the one change that I'm having to go back and kind of get a couple of extra quotes to satisfy, make sure all of our numbers are correct. But the number before you will make sure that all those projects can be included into to the request. So if there are any questions, again, we can get into some finer details if you would like, but this will provide much more access into the center and provide much more user-friendly use of the facilities within the center as well. Here's the application timeline. May the 1st is when the application is due. August 23rd is when we will know if we're awarded or not. And then we'll have to the end of October 27 to pull off the project. It's a 5-to-1 match, which is huge for us, meaning every 5 state dollars, we only have to match it with 1 local dollar. So that's a tremendous match for the city. And as part of this project, we've had to go through a lot of ADA self-assessments, and not just on the recreation center, which is what the grant calls for, but we've done this for every center that we operate and every park that we operate. So as part of this too, you'll eventually see an ADA transition plan before you. Give us a few months on that one because that will lay out what projects we need to tackle to bring the rest of our facilities up to ADA standards with the cost estimate. And that'll be a loose estimate and then a timeline on how to pull those off. So that's going to be kind of one of those CIP things that you guys will see moving forward. But as part of this grant application, we've done that for the recreation center, but we've taken it upon ourselves to expand it to the rest of our facilities as well.
Yeah, so you have the total project's around 130,000
Roughly, yes, ma'am.
and the majority of that would come from the grant and only 26,000 would come in order to do the project.
Correct. 26,250, I think, is
Okay.
the number that I've suggested. Received a
Thank you so
third.
much.
Yeah, just for full disclosure, received a third quote last week. Still trying to make sure we're quoting apples for apples here. So this number is a definite number. It may go down, it may stay the same, but it won't be any larger than 26,250.
Okay. It is the reason that you keep the doors locked when you have children in there? Is that the reason?
Correct.
And I know that like they have handicap curbside for voting because that's a voting precinct as well. But I'm just curious as to the feedback that you've gotten as to have you had a lot of people with mobility issues visiting the center?
We currently have folks who use walkers who come every day. We have it's a congregate meal site. Excuse me. It's run by Meals on Wheels at this point. We've operated it in the center for over 20 years now. They come Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. They have some social, educational type classes, and they also receive a hot lunch every single day. So there are currently 2 or 3 folks who come daily who are in walkers, and they use the active transportation to get there, and they have the lift and those buses and all that sort of thing. and we have to physically go out, or someone has to go out and open the door for them, which is an embarrassment, honestly, for me to stand up here and say that they can't independently enter the center. And we also have folks who come to Alamance Burlington School System operates a pre-K speech therapy program in one of our rooms. And some of those children have all sorts of challenges, and received a letter from that group that this will be a tremendous improvement for our facility for those families.
Yeah, I don't know how you're gonna solve that lockout issue with the,
Well, we're trying to get it to where once it unlocks, when our staff hits the button to unlock the doors, it will automatically open doors for everyone.
okay.
Exploring that because the couple of vendors that I've gotten quotes from, it's like, we'll have to look into that one. So that's why I don't know exact details right now, but that was another suggestion from one of the public meetings we had, is to make that happen so it's the same experience for everyone.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for your hard work on this. This is
You're welcome.
definitely a need for that rec center, and I think, it's great that you took the initiative to do that. Thank you so much, Brian. It seems like I'm seeing you here every month.
Well, I'll try to change that, but I'll probably be back next month with something else.
Work on your next project for next month,
Yeah.
right? All right, well, do I hear a motion from the council as to whether we want to approve or deny the grant application?
Madam Mayor, I move to direct staff to apply for the 2024 Accessible Parks Grant for the ADA entryway doors and the ADA family restroom projects at the Graham Recreation Center, and to approve matching funds in the amount of $26,250 if the grant is awarded.
Madam Mayor, I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much, Brian. We greatly appreciate it. Is there any comments on anybody that signed up in the back, sir? Okay. And I believe one of your questions, Mr. Boney, was when was the budget hearing that we discussed? Do you remember when that was? I believe it was January.
Off the top of my head, I think it's December 18th.
Oh, okay. See, I would have told you the wrong day. I don't know. So December the 18th, is that right?
Yeah, I'm looking at my calendar just to be sure. Yes.
If you could, Manager, if you might be able to provide us with a copy of the meeting notification for that meeting. I could have overlooked it, Madam Mayor, but I do not recall receiving such a notification for any special meeting. The meetings that we're aware of are the monthly meetings of the council, which are established to your sort of regular schedule. And I know you have some special meetings typically in budget season, but at least offhand, I'm not aware of the one from December. Was that recorded?
I don't believe it was recorded. The minutes were approved at the January city council meeting.
Why would it not be recorded?
It was held at the Civic Center.
We typically hold our budget sessions off property.
I would just say, Madam Mayor, I think that that's a limitation that also means people are unaware of whatever discussions you had on not only this topic of the Sesquicentennial Park or potential future decisions about it, but on anything else that you held that day. It seems to me the normal course of things should be to have them be recorded and posted, if they're video, posted like the regular meetings are, or at a minimum, audio.
And
But-
Mayor Talley, I will add that notification was sent by the city clerk on December 14th at 2:25 PM.
Right.
And Mr. Boney's email at news@the News was on there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from anybody on the floor? Cities? You gonna go apply for those credit card? Okay. But I'm saying for Burlington. Did you know, did you know about it? Okay, because nobody informed us. You know what I'm saying? What? You wear two hats sometimes. So, okay, Brian. I'm trying to keep taxes down in Burlington too. Okay, Aaron? Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick comment about the park. It's my first time hearing about it. I'm new to the area, been here for
Okay.
about 2 years. Um,
Would you give us your name and address, please, sir?
yes, William Morrow, 1002 Broadlands Way, Graham, North Carolina. One of the things I was interested about is the foot traffic itself, because we were talking about the utility and how much it gets used. And a lot of the conversation was about the structural integrity of it, as well as beautification to an extent and where it might be. But I'm curious about foot traffic because of the sitting area, because one of the proposed ideas was another building, which if something was built up, it could be used in a number of different ways. But if there is foot traffic that uses that outside with the different benches and stuff, then I'd be a little bit more curious about our plans or our designs and things like that, the ideas of what we would put there so we don't take away from something, especially with the months and stuff getting ready to be warm, something else for people to be able to enjoy outside. And even with the brick structure and covering it up, I'd be curious to know if there's any documentation as to why the design itself, because if we were to put an actual type of roofing or covering on it, does that then take away from maybe the intent of the design if there was an intent to it being open? Just some thoughts from that.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Renee, you got anything?
No, ma'am. Yeah, I got one thing. I'd like to thank the city. My mom and I would like to really thank the city for the beautiful flowers they sent when my dad passed away.
Yeah. Sorry for your loss, Ricky. Bobby?
No, ma'am, nothing.
Megan?
No, ma'am.
So we're working on a concert series for Downtown Graham. I believe Brian also has a concert series as well. We'll have a car cruise in the third Saturday along with the concert series that will be starting. When does yours start? And does it start in May? May. And that'll be Thursdays at 7. You guys got a lot of stuff going on at the lake. I think you've got a shore catfish tournament, is that right? Tell me some of the other events you got going on. I keep seeing them, but I'm trying to like recall them in my head.
This is why I don't come to council meetings, because I'm put on the spot. We do have.
Your department, you should know these events.
There's so much going on. We do have catfish tournaments starting. I think it's May, June, and maybe July. We'll have a family day at the lake fishing derby sort of hybrid event this year. I think that's going to be in June at the lake. We've just recently gone through a couple of bass fishing tournaments at the lake. We will have a legacy tournament. Don't ask me when it is. It's coming up soon. And that is for basically to try to get interest for children out at the lake and bass fishing. And that's for someone who's over 18 and then someone who's under 18 being in the boat with them at the same time during a fishing tournament. So that'll be coming up soon. We do have our athletics, of course, are always ongoing. Got our concert series starting up downtown on the 4th Thursdays of the month, starting in May, and that goes through September. We also have our concert series with Burlington Mebane, and I'm leaving somebody out, so I shouldn't have started naming them to begin with. And so that's the musical chairs concert series, and that's on Fridays throughout May through August, I believe it is. So that'll be at Bill Cook Park for us. The Graham Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony is this coming Saturday at 6. I encourage everyone to purchase tickets and to come out and support all of those who are being inducted into either the Hall of Fame. Those are generally athletes or coaches, or to the Hall of Honor. Those are folks who have supported athletes and athletics throughout Graham, whether it's the high school or on the recreation level. So again, that's this Saturday at 6 at the Recreation Center. And it's probably enough for now. I'll forget something else. No more questions, please.
Okay. I was
you,
trying to
Brian.
be helpful to you. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Mayor, make a motion that we adjourn at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much for being here tonight.